would go to the swimming pool. I go set the pool up for him so he could lay out by the pool.
For so many years, Elvis Presley's death left behind questions, rumors, and silence. But there was one person who never spoke until the very end. She cleaned his home, watched him come and go, saw the man behind the music, saw the real Elvis Presley. And for years, she stayed silent. But just before her death, she finally spoke. And what she revealed wasn't what fans expected. This wasn't about the flashy jumpsuits or screaming crowds. It was about Elvis, the person, his habits, his heartbreaks, his secrets, and what it was really like to live inside the walls of Graceland. She saw it all, from the glory days to the quiet moments no one talks about. Join us as we uncover what Elvis's maid confessed before taking her final breath. The maid who saw it all. Nancy B. Rooks-Givon never imagined that a simple housekeeping job would change her life. She came from Mason, Tennessee, a small town in Fayette County. Life was not easy growing up. She was one of 8 children and the only daughter. Her family didn't have much, but they worked hard. Nancy and her brothers walked more than 2 miles to school every day. They even grew their own food. From an early age, Nancy learned how to take care of a home. Her daughter, Norma Chisholm, once said, "My mother used to rub paste wax into our hardwood floors on her hands and knees. Then she would buff them by hand. Our house was always spotless." That same hard work and care would one day lead her to Graceland. In 1967, Nancy was working through a temp agency when fate stepped in. One day, a maid at Graceland got sick. The agency sent Nancy to fill in. She didn't know it then, but that one day would change everything. At the mansion, she met Elvis Presley's father, Vernon. He warned her she might be let go once the regular maid came back. But he also told her, "Do whatever you see that needs to be done." Nancy took those words seriously. She didn't wait around. She started cleaning right away, dusting, vacuuming, straightening up. There was a new baby in the house and visitors coming over all day and night. Nancy made sure everything looked perfect. When things got too busy, she even helped in the kitchen. She began cooking meals for Elvis himself, meals he would grow to love. These recipes later became famous and people still visit Memphis to enjoy them. Elvis saw something in Nancy. She wasn't just another housekeeper. She was respectful, detailed, and dependable. She was soon hired full-time. Nancy worked the 5 p.m. to 1 a.m. shift. Most homes didn't need help at that hour. But Graceland wasn't a normal house. Elvis stayed up late, and so did his guests. The house was always full of life, with music legends and Hollywood stars dropping by at all hours. Nancy was there through it all. She didn't just clean, she observed, she listened. She understood the rhythm of Elvis's world better than most. In her book, The Maid, the Man and the Fans, Elvis is the Man, which she co-wrote with May Gutter, Nancy talked about her journey, from that first unexpected day to the unforgettable memories that followed. And Nancy wasn't just there during the good times. She was also at Graceland on the tragic day Elvis died, August 16, 1977. Even after that heartbreaking day, she continued to work at the mansion, keeping his memory alive through her stories and books. She later co-authored the Presley Family Cookbook and also wrote Inside Graceland, giving fans a closer look at the private world of Elvis Presley through the eyes of someone who truly knew him. Speaking of which, Gary James sat down with Nancy Rooks, the woman who cooked and cleaned for Elvis Presley at Graceland. Her stories weren't polished or rehearsed. They were real, and every word brought you closer to the private world of the king of rock and roll. Nancy had seen it all, and in this rare interview, she shared it all too. The day she walked through the Graceland gates. Nancy was living in North Memphis when everything changed. She had just quit her job as a claimist so her cousin could have it. She didn't have anything lined up but hoped something better would come along. "I went home and laid up about a week," she said. Then she decided to go to the employment office. She told the woman there, "I want something good." The lady promised to try and find something. And within a week she called Nancy back. She said, "Do you know Elvis Presley?" Nancy replied, "No, ma'am. I have heard of him, but I really don't know him." That's when the woman told her, "Well, that's who you'll be working for." Nancy was surprised. "How I'll be working for him? They're not interviewing me." But the woman said, "I'm the one doing the interviews." She told Nancy to go to the gate with the music note on it the next morning at 8 a.m. Nancy and her husband drove down to Whitehaven to find the place ahead of time. The next morning, she showed up, and the guard was already expecting her. She was taken up to the house where she met Elvis's grandmother and aunt. Elvis himself was upstairs sleeping. "They just told me whatever need to be done, do it," she remembered. And that's exactly what she did, starting in his mother's room, then moving to the kitchen to help with breakfast. Nancy started working at Graceland in May 1967. She stayed for 10 years until the very day Elvis passed in 1977. She worked the night shift from 5 p.m. to 1 a.m., and at Graceland, those weren't quiet hours. That was when the house truly came alive. Elvis kept odd hours. His breakfast often came in the evening. This would be his breakfast time, Nancy explained. He didn't eat breakfast in the morning like maybe you or I would. He'd be asleep most of the time in the morning. But dinner? That came much later, sometimes after midnight, after Elvis returned from the movies. He'd be back by 12:30 or 1 a.m. that night and eat dinner, she said. The food was already prepared, but someone was always there to warm it up and serve it. And Elvis didn't hold back when it came to what he wanted. We would try to put him on a diet, but he wouldn't let us. He wanted what he wanted to eat, Nancy laughed. I took food off his plate, and he would see me on the camera and tell me to go back and put that food on his plate. That's how close he watched things, and how much he loved his food just the way he liked it. Cooking for the king, and his family too. Cooking was never just a job at Graceland. It was a full experience. Nancy didn't just cook for Elvis, she cooked for the whole Presley family. The recipes she used weren't created by a chef, they were made with love and tradition. That's right, she confirmed when asked if the cookbook featured the real meals she served. These recipes in the book are the actual recipes you used to cook not only for Elvis, but for the entire Presley family. Nancy didn't plan to write a cookbook. The idea came from Elvis Presley, Elvis's uncle. I did it really for him and the family, she said. That's how the Presley family cookbook came to be. But Elvis had strong opinions about food. If you tried to make it healthier, he noticed. Nancy recalled how she once removed some fatty food from his plate, but Elvis saw everything. He would see me on the camera and tell me to go back and put that food on his plate, she said with a laugh. He'd be upset. I'd have to come back downstairs and put it back. Elvis liked sweet treats too. There was always something ready for him. Maybe a chocolate icebox pie, lemon pie, or coconut pie. Not all at once, of course, but there was always a dessert in the fridge. If not that, then a bowl of fruit, honeydew, cantaloupe, watermelon, all cut up into pieces. It was there in case he woke up and wanted a snack. Speaking of which, Nancy Rooks wasn't alone in caring for Graceland. She often worked the day shift while Pauline handled nights. Nancy would arrive around 6 or 7 in the morning, just as Elvis was heading upstairs to sleep. Her job wasn't just to clean, but also to make sure he had what he needed before resting. I would probably get him some orange juice up there, some water, or try to get him to eat something before he would lay down, she said. Sometimes she'd take up a light tray, maybe an egg omelet, a biscuit, some bacon, and coffee. He didn't always eat much, but he liked to have something nearby. As for lunch, it didn't happen often. Most of the time, lunch was skipped, Nancy explained. But if Elvis was getting ready to leave for California or somewhere far, lunch might be served. On those days, the meal looked more like dinner: porterhouse steak, baked potatoes, green beans, and sometimes biscuits, but usually just crackers. You see, Elvis was very specific about what he liked. Nancy remembered preparing big meals for him even in summer 1977. I would beat up maybe 3 or 4 eggs, she said. Put a little cheese in them, put a little onions in them, put a little stuffing in it. Then I would fry as hard and as dry a whole pound of bacon. She made sure every piece was crispy and had no grease, exactly how Elvis wanted it. That's the way he liked it, she added. He had also gained weight by then, quite a bit. But even though they tried to adjust his meals, Elvis was not the type to be told what to eat. He wanted what he wanted. And Nancy saw it all. She served the man, watched his habits, and lived through the rhythm of his unusual life. Her memories gave fans a rare look into what it was really like living and working at Graceland. Speaking of which, did you know that before Nancy Rooks ever worked at Graceland, she saw Elvis Presley as just a boy on the street? She didn't know he would become the king of rock and roll, the barefoot kid with a guitar. Nancy lived on Alabama Street. One day she was walking to the store when she saw a crowd of kids blocking the road. In the middle stood a barefoot boy wearing overalls with one strap loose. He had blonde hair and was playing a guitar. Nancy yelled at the kids, "Would you all kids get out of the street?" She asked, "Who is that anyway?" One of the children answered, "That's Elvis Presley." At the time, she had no idea who he was. "He ought to go home," she said, laughing. That memory stayed with her. Years later, she would walk through the gates of Graceland, not knowing she had already crossed paths with the boy who would become her boss. By 1967, Elvis was a major star, known from The Ed Sullivan Show and his films. But Nancy hadn't seen him on TV. "I worked all the time," she said. She hadn't even heard his music on the radio, so when she was hired to work at Graceland, she didn't fully realize who Elvis Presley was. "But after I got out there and met him, he was very nice and an intelligent person," she shared. Elvis surprised her with his manners. He was a very polite person. "He learned me how to say thank you. He would always say please and thank you when asking for something." Nancy told him once, "You're learning me how to be polite." Elvis smiled and said, "Yeah, my mother taught me that." When Elvis got lonely and just wanted to sing, Nancy Rooks didn't just clean up after Elvis, she shared quiet, personal moments with him. Moments fans could only dream of. One day, Elvis was upstairs alone while his girlfriend had gone out shopping. He called Nancy up to keep him company. "He told me he'd get lonesome and to come on up there and sit and talk to him," she said. She went upstairs and they sat in the office area. Then Elvis told her, "We need something to do. I'm gonna play the organ." Nancy joked, "We gonna sing?" "You know I can't sing, but I'll try to help you." They started singing "Precious Lord, Take My Hand and Lead Me On." But when they reached the part where Nancy didn't know the words, they just hummed through it. "We just do it that way," she laughed. They were singing and laughing together until a bodyguard walked in. "What are you doing?" he asked. Elvis answered, "What you think we're doing? We're singing!" Then they all burst out laughing. Nancy remembered the bodyguard was probably Billy Smith. It was a memory that stayed with her forever. Over the years, Nancy often thought about how close she had been to someone so famous. "People just want to touch me because he touched me," she said. She laid out his socks, his shirts, cleaned his toothbrush, made his bed, even placed the pillow under his head. She turned on the TV for him, prepared the pool area, towel, radio, sunglasses, drinks, everything he needed. But Elvis couldn't stay outside long. Even in his own backyard, fans would climb over the fence just to see him. Sometimes he couldn't lay out there longer than 15, 20 minutes, she said. Then she had to gather everything and bring it all back into the house. Once, a fan even made it into the house. Nancy caught her trying to sneak upstairs. I got her back downstairs before she got up there to his room. It wasn't just teenagers either. Might have been in her 20s, she said. Nancy had to turn away many fans who cried at the door. But rules were rules, even if people didn't want to hear them. Elvis had his fair share of confrontations too. Nancy told the story of when Elvis's regular yard man, a black man, got sick and broke his leg. A white man was hired to replace him for a while. But when the original yard man returned, the temporary worker had to go. The man didn't take it well. He went to Vernon Presley's house and said, "You fired me for this black man." Vernon reminded him it was a temporary job. But the man said, "I'm going over there and kick Elvis's ass." Vernon immediately called Nancy. She ran upstairs and told Elvis, "Mr. Elvis, this guy is coming down to the gate." Elvis, still in his pajamas, said, "That sounds good to me." He put on his robe and went down to meet him. At the gate, Elvis faced the man and said, "What you say you wanted to do to me?" The man replied, "I'm going to kick your ass." Elvis shot back, "Yeah? I'm going to whoop yours too." And he did. He whooped the guy. He really beat him, Nancy recalled. The man ran away and Elvis just stood there laughing. It was one of many wild moments Nancy witnessed during her time at Graceland, but nothing could prepare her for what would happen next. The morning of August 16th, 1977. To Nancy, that Tuesday morning didn't feel different. It was just a regular routine day, she said. Elvis had plans. He looked good. He was supposed to fly out that night, maybe to California. His daughter was staying at Graceland, and some of the boys, Elvis's staff and friends, had already gone ahead. His road manager was still around, and Vernon Presley, his father, was in the office. Nancy had even been in the office earlier that morning. One of the bodyguards, David Stanley, wasn't there when he was supposed to be. When he finally came in with another man, Mark White, he thought about checking on Elvis, but asked Nancy first, "Is Ginger there?" She told him, "Yeah, Ginger's still upstairs." That was Elvis's girlfriend, Ginger Alden. so David decided not to go up. "Well, there ain't no need for me going up there. I guess everything's okay." But Nancy had her doubts. "I don't know about that, 'cause I heard a loud noise up there," she said. David walked up to the black doors leading to Elvis's room but didn't open them. He came back downstairs. Later, around 10 minutes to 2, the phone rang. It was the intercom. Nancy picked it up expecting it to be for breakfast, but it wasn't. It was Ginger. She sounded strange. "Who down there?" she asked. Nancy said, "There's nobody down here but me. Aunt Delta has gone to the drugstore. Al has gone to pick up some stuff for the night. His dad and the rest of them are in the office. His grandmother is in her room." Then Ginger said something Nancy would never forget. "Something bad has happened up here." Her voice was shaky. She started crying. A sudden rush, a terrible discovery. Nancy knew something was wrong. She quickly hung up the phone and rushed upstairs. She thought maybe Elvis had broken something, like a glass or mirror. It had happened before, but this was different. She went down the hall and into the dressing room area, and there he was. Elvis was lying on the floor. I said, "Oh my God, what is this?" Nancy ran back downstairs. At that exact moment, Al Strada walked through the door. "Al, go upstairs. Something has happened up there," she told him. "What is it?" he asked. Nancy didn't waste time. "Go and see right now." Al went up, came back down, but didn't speak. Nancy shouted, "Don't you stop and look at me! Do something!" Al then contacted Vernon Presley and Joe Esposito, Elvis's close friend and road manager. Joe ran inside and went straight upstairs. Vernon came right after. When they saw what had happened, their cries filled the house. Nancy tried calling Dr. Nick, Dr. George Nikopoulos, Elvis's physician, but couldn't reach him. "I called him on every phone that he had. I didn't get any answer," she said. So Elvis's aunt tried calling her own doctor in Whitehaven, but he said, "No, he's not my patient. I cannot come." He refused to come. He said, "I'm sorry," Nancy added. It was heartbreaking. Somehow someone finally got through to Dr. Nick. Around the same time, an ambulance arrived. Nancy let them in, but they didn't know the way. She showed them how to lift the stretcher above their heads to get it up the stairs. When the paramedics brought Elvis back down, Nancy took one look at him. He looked just like he was asleep, she said, but deep down she knew it was too late. He had passed some time earlier. He had blue spots on him. Those spots were on his face. His skin had changed. There was no doubt he was gone. Nancy remembered one detail clearly. She had heard a loud noise earlier that morning, around 9:30 or 10 a.m. She thought it was just Elvis and Ginger arguing. "If she had not been up there, I would have been checking on him," she said. "His auntie would have gone up there and checked on him. We don't let him be up by himself without anybody checking on him." The argument wasn't unusual. Elvis and Ginger had been going back and forth about whether she would go with him to California that night. He was saying, "Hell no, you're going tonight. If you don't come tonight, then so-and-so you're not coming out there in the morning. I'll have somebody else." Nancy said, that's the way the argument were. But no one could have known what was really about to happen. Not Ginger, not David, not even Nancy, who had worked in that house for a decade and knew every sound, every step, and every mood. That day, everything changed. More details of that morning. Nancy was one of the few people working at Graceland on the day Elvis died. August 16, 1977. The other maids were either off sick or working later shifts. "I was the only one of the maids that was there," she recalled, "but I told her I could handle it, which I could." That morning, Elvis had returned from the racket club. He was standing at the steps, waiting to go upstairs. Nancy asked, "You want some breakfast, Mr. Elvis?" He replied, "No, I don't want anything to eat now. I just want to get some sleep, but what I would like to have is some water." Nancy didn't just bring him any glass. "We didn't carry him water in a big glass like you would probably drink out of," she said. "Instead, it was in a jug with a hand clasp, like the kind orange juice used to come in. Pauline, another worker, helped bring it to him." "I ain't never knowed him to grab that water and drink it like he drank it this morning," Pauline said. Nancy replied, "He's probably just tired. Probably was hot." That moment, though small, stayed with her forever. Life at Graceland after Elvis was gone. When Elvis passed away in 1977, Nancy didn't leave Graceland. She stayed and worked for the family for 6 more years. She was there until 1982, when Graceland officially opened to the public. During that time, Nancy continued to cook and clean, mostly for Elvis's grandmother. We'd go upstairs and clean up there proper maybe once or twice a month, she said. They wanted to make sure it never got too dusty. But working there after Elvis's death was not easy. Nancy missed him deeply. One morning, she was sitting at the table when she heard a door slam loudly. I didn't see no door close, but I heard it. She ran outside and told the guard that someone had slammed a door inside the house. He searched every room but found no one. Nancy believed it was Elvis. He was angry. He just slammed the door real hard. She explained that Elvis never wanted the house to be open to the public. He wanted the trophy room open to the public, but he was going to intend to do that himself if he had retired. He had plans to guide visitors through the hallway, into the trophy room, past the pool, and back out. But he wanted to do it his way. Eventually, Nancy was moved out of the main house and sent to work across the street, first at Heartbreak Restaurant and then at Rockabilly's. They said they wanted me to learn more about the business, she explained. She had worked at Graceland for so long, they thought she could handle a new role. Nancy worked there for 26 years, until June 18, 1993. That's when she had an accident. She fell and hurt her back. That was one reason I've been having a problem ever since, she said. She had surgery in 2001 and was never able to work again. But did you know that Nancy believed that Elvis never really left Graceland? The ghosts of Graceland? Strange things began to happen after his death. She worked at night cleaning the trophy room. Often the lights would flash on and off while she worked. I would tell Mr. Elvis, "Now you leave these lights alone, 'cause I gotta see." One night she tried to lie down and take a short nap on the platform where Elvis's suits were displayed. Suddenly someone shook her foot. She woke up, but no one was there. She laughed and said, "Mr. Elvis, I know what you did. You did that to wake me up. That mean for me to go to work." Nancy also remembered a story that others had heard before. Some said that during dinner a voice cried out, "Elvis!" and it sounded just like his mother's voice. Nancy didn't hear that voice, but she remembered hearing footsteps, his mother's, going up and down the stairs all the time. One time she was in his grandmother's room, which used to belong to his mother, Gladys. Then something very strange happened. There was something that come from the ceiling, like an entity, she said. It landed on her bed. Nancy was standing. His grandmother was sitting. "Do you see it?" she asked Nancy. "Yeah," Nancy replied. The grandmother said, "Wonder what was that?" "Oh, I know, it's probably Gladys. She's trying to tell us something." Nancy agreed. "Yeah, it looked like she trying to tell us something. Might be some tears shed somewhere." They both laughed it off, but the moment stayed with Nancy forever, seeing the unseen. You see, Nancy wasn't new to strange sights. She had seen ghosts before. "I had an uncle and he came back and I seen him," she shared. Even as a child, she would see things others didn't. Some people don't believe in that, but Nancy did. A lot of people say it don't exist, but it do exist to some people. Graceland, to her, was more than just a workplace. It was full of memories, some joyful, some painful, and some that simply couldn't be explained. Nancy had spent decades in that home, first with Elvis and then without him. She saw him as a boy with a guitar in the street, then later as a man with fame, manners, and troubles. And in the silence after his passing, she still felt his presence, sometimes in flickering lights, sometimes in footsteps on the stairs, and sometimes in a door that slammed when no one was around. Nancy's time at Graceland stretched over decades, and oddly enough, her final day came just one day before Elvis's own anniversary. She passed away on August 15, 2022, at the age of 84. It was the day before thousands of fans gathered at Graceland with candles and songs to remember the legend who died on August 16, 1977. Before her health declined, Nancy often joined those candlelight vigils. She was part of the house, part of the story, and one of the last true voices who lived through the Elvis Presley everyone else only watched from a distance. Which part of Nancy's story touched you the most and why? And do you think Graceland still holds the energy of Elvis and the people who lived there? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more incredible stories from Hollywood's fascinating history. See you next time.